Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Inside Track with my great buddy, as always, Glenda Rivoallan. How you doing, Glenda?
Really good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And we've got an awesome guest. So I've been trying to get Steve on for God knows how long, pretty much from the start, haven't I, Steve? So welcome to the podcast eventually. So welcome aboard.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me, both of you. And apologies for delaying coming in. Just been a little bit busy for many reasons, and always been up for it and excited. So really happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely come on to your projects in a minute, because you've got some really exciting projects. But I think first of all, you've had quite a big career in a very small space of time, because you're not that old. So and all the things that you've done. Exactly. So all the things that you've done. Do you want to just give us a run through of who Steve Harrison is and what he's done so far?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I'm fitness through and through. Whole life has been fitness industry and or sport industry, starting from actual kind of athletics into cycling. So I spent a few years performing for Team GB and doing all my cycling. I won't go into that too much, but as and when that ended for nasty injuries and moved on, I stayed true to fitness and have done your typical kind of gym instructors, PTs, duty managers, general managers with some of the name brands across our industry, local authorities like what was Glendale, now Parkwood, those kind of things, working in Fitness First and Group X's, those kind of things back in the early days. But moved quite quickly into cruise ships and training, where I ended up working with Steiner and actually helping on some kind of training. Worked quite closely with some of their high guys in the multi-tracks world, who kind of took me under their wing, which was nice. Came back and went into education a bit more gung-ho. So spent close to 10 years with Premier Training.
Wow.
So a lot of lecturing there. Worked my way up to looking after the UK for ops and running all the clubs, looking after all of the lecturers and designing a lot of the like occupational standards for the diplomas, as people know them, across those. After that, went to state education as such, but kind of went back supplier side and went to Technogym, looked after all of their master trainers, looked at the education courses and new product rollouts, got heavily involved in things like the Kinesis and Omnia functional training in particular, which was great, and lots of the new innovative rollout kind of floor gym plans as well, across brands like Everyone Active and Snap Fitness with some of their kind of key account managers and close projects. Then went to Aspria, across Europe, so looking after the luxury brands, huge megalith clubs.
Beautiful clubs, aren't they?
Yeah, gorgeous.
This is only him at 18.
I know. Yeah. That's what I mean. The guy's only just 40. You know, are you 40 yet, Steve?
No, don't say that.
Well, it's not even that. And it's just like most people don't have this career by the time they're 70. So
no, it's been good. After that, though, what I threw into the mix as a family. Yeah, so got my little girls, focused back more in the UK, with yourself, Ryan, a bit at fitness space as well. So looked after business development and kind of training development as well across Fitness Space Network, which really immersed me into the franchise world. And obviously kind of smaller boutique clubs as well, very much PT model there. Very different revenue kind of model PT versus a Berlin largest club in Europe at Aspria to smaller kind of ones. But then again, there was much more of them and spread across the country. So from there, moved with the times a little bit, really. Went to a company called Collider Vision and Fitbox Virtual, who power a lot of the Les Mills On Demand in the clubs, and also have their own Earth and Sky content series, which is very high-end luxury virtual fitness. So dealing with the luxury hotel tourism kind of world.
There were some beautiful projects out in Bali and that, wasn't there, that you were looking at, which was amazing.
When you look at the Raffles brands, Fairmonts, M Clubs, all of those Six Senses, they were the kind of clientele that we were dealing with, in not only putting virtual spaces in, but creating just environments that, jaw-dropping, beautiful, but also where they have big issues in, if you've got, I don't know, a location in the Seychelles, it's quite hard to find instructors to cover classes. simple everyday issues. So the virtual tech world becomes like really quite a lifesaver. Yeah. But the budgets are good, and so they make them beautifully, and it's still a completely immersive experience. So that was great. As with everyone else went through the last couple of years. So times change, new normal. I imagine we talk about that kind of stuff. And actually, it created an amazing opportunity for me, which is where I currently am with Heba Pilates. And we're kind of a concoction of much of that. So we're a hybrid model. It's Pilates. And we've created, invented it ourselves. We've got the patents, made the machine itself. So we've reinvented the reformer into what we've
I was just about to ask, so is it basically based on the idea of the reformer, but it's been completely
and actually and beyond that, Glenda, so it's a reformer, a Cadillac, Wonder Chair, you could say gyrokinesis. So it's learnings from all of those rooted in the reformer mostly. But we have not only springs, we've got weight stacks. The machine folds up against the wall. It's got pulleys on the top, it's got pulleys on the bottom, it's got pulleys in the middle, and it's got integrated jump boards. You don't need to put in and out like you would on a normal reformer. You can work from both. I could go on for a big list of things I'm very proud of and passionate about. But in short, it's amazing, and it's just taken the reformer and Pilates world to the next level.
I think the thing just to say with it as well, though, Steve, because this is probably the crux of the model. It's not just the reformer bed that you've created and their instructor run. You know what I mean? Do you want to run through the concept of it? Because it's not the traditional reformer. You've got an instructor at the front, and then you're pushing people through their exercise. This is a whole new model. Obviously, it's a franchise model that you're looking to grow, but the whole thing is just brand new. It's not Pilates in the true sense of what our listeners would probably understand.
100%, and like the mechanics of the machine itself is a step up, even to things of it being wider and the matting that's used. We're quite proud on that. But as you allude to there, Ryan, it's kind of like a Peloton, but within the reformer world as well. So we've got our own filming studios. We create all of our content, and that's streamed live into each new former station, as we call them. And so you go into a Heba Pilates studio, which atypical to a Pilates studio. Normally you could book every half hour on the half hour across all the days across the week. So like we are highly available for everyone. You can book literally 10 minutes before turning up if you need to. So very good for the modern world. And you'll come in, you'll be meted by our professional guides. So they are manned studios. We do have guides in them, and they're fantastic, but your session is led by the machine itself. Okay. So the guides they're facilitators, they're conductors, they're concierges. And as a result, they're elevated experts, because if you struggle with the instructor, which is not the person that you deal with like you would in a typical kind of scenario, the instructor's on the screen. But if you struggle for any reason, you have the guide there who can actually come and adjust, who can correct anything if we need to, kind of will just make you feel comfortable, make you feel welcome, give suggestions to either fine tune to a better movement pattern, or maybe actually to change an intensity level. Depends on what we need.
Steve, I'm full of questions because it's just so fascinating. But do you also do this into the home as well, where people buy this machine or not?
So big question. Not yet. Our commercial machine is taller than an average ceiling at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
But will we by the end of this year? Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And how many people? How many have you got in a room?
So in a studio at the moment, we have 3 studios open at this time. We're opening 2 shortly in London. So the next 2 on the list. And they're between 10 and 12 studios of the 3 already. So we've got 10, 11 and 12 station studios. And the model's designed to actually go a little bit larger, but doesn't need to be too much larger. It's a boutique model, but it can also go a little bit smaller as well. Because as Ryan said, franchise model is not huge overheads. There's also not convoluted relationships of 50 suppliers that a kind of new franchisee would have to deal with. Like I say, we invented the machine, we supply the machine and the maintenance, we create the content. That's not an additional license line that comes with it. So it's a very simple model, very easy to run, but actually at the same time, very high tech and very future kind of as well.
Did you say there's 10 to 12 stations in a studio?
Yes.
All in the one room, yeah?
All in one room. And it's one of those things, you don't want to be grateful for COVID, absolutely not, and the pandemic. Timing wise, we're fortunate that it happened as we were designing our layouts. So actually all studios are built with specific bespoke cabinetry that's designed to space everyone at least 2 meters apart. You'll work at your independent use. It is a very COVID supportive environment.
And do you, I did hear what you said about people can book a slot, but you don't run them as group class times. You run them as basically seats like a hairdresser's, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a really
so people could be just moving in and out all the time.
Do you know, it's so bizarre. It's incredible because you can come into a full studio and see everyone moving on every new former, but they're all doing different things.
Yes.
So instead of like looking at a class through the window that you might in a, I don't know, a local leisure centre, and see everyone doing the same move, or at least trying to, like a Zumba class or kind of a Les Mills, and they're following curation, and that's amazing. It's brilliant. But
what was the reason for going to the digital instructor? Would that, and I'm guessing that it's definitely a real skill set to the person that obviously invented the machine. Are these the trainers as well?
Yes.
That are on the screen? Because, I mean, they'll know the machine better than anybody, right?
And even more so at this stage in our business as well. So not only that, but actually new guides who join our team and go through our training processes get the opportunity to join our filming team as well at this stage. As and when we're at our 400 clubs, that will probably still remain close to the hub team and would have grown in there. But actually, we've got our expert team who create that, our content creators. But it's also it's a great recruitment opportunity for new guides coming in as well, because they get to be part of the scale because they join the content. It's a real nice kind of side perk for the guides who you'll meet to sometimes go, hang on, that's you on the screen. And they're like,
that's really great. Yeah. I think what's brilliant, and we've got to congratulate you for this, is it's definitely different, right, Ryan?
I've been speaking to Steve all the way through pretty much since he got the job, and it's some of the stuff. I mean, it stings like that you don't realise when you're doing a business like this that's so new and so dynamic. It was how many TVs sets have you now brought in to make sure that the sound projects in the right way and that you don't have the shining on the screen and all that sort of stuff. It must be like 20 different.
Yeah, you learn first, don't you? And then you change. So the biggest issue we had with screens when we were going through testing phases was reflections of backgrounds, and we were thinking quality of screen and touch scrollability and everything first. So we've ordered all these to go through, and we're then designing beautiful studios. So one's got glass all the way on the back, and it's facing the Thames. It's gorgeous. So therefore, the sun comes in and shines on a screen, and you're like, I didn't even think. So you go through the next. But do you know what? That's what's so exciting and dynamic as well, is where we create it, we change it, we learn.
That's great.
Okay, we see it, we learn, we make it better. We see it, we learn, and it brings with it such a professional humility. To kind of know, like, we're so proud of what it is, but actually we're able to control it, always getting better.
I mean, I could talk to you about this concept for like 6 hours. It's so fascinating. I've got so many blooming burning questions, but overall, what would you say was the absolute key driver to not have the physical I know you've got guides, but actually taking the person, whether it was 1-to-1 or small group in 4s, or even a class as a master class. What was your biggest driver for that? What's the biggest reason that was it the technique of the machine? Or
I can answer that in 2 ways, Glenda. One, personally, because actually kind of my input into there as well. which is scale for the business. Literally just the ability to,
because you can have classes going off every 30 seconds because it's your class.
100%, and we can train people to learn their Pilates skill set. We can update them. We can actually start to embrace club models, studios within other facilities, and we can grow that, and we can train external staff for those. So the trajectory pathway for putting it into new environments is just so much grander by doing it that way. And the second way of answering is the same answer really, but from the founders. And actually going back to Joseph Pilates is what the quote that they would say from the founders there is, his dream was to have Pilates on every street corner everywhere around the world. And we can achieve that. We can do that. We can go smaller clubs. We can go high street. So these boutique studios, still delivering expert standard, still elevating everything that Pilates stands for, and actually being able to achieve it, and having simpler ways of navigating sickness of staff.
I think the market,
things.
I feel like your market is so ready for it as well, because since COVID, I think people have they're working from home and always been on different desk stations and stuff. People are, there's so many more people going to physios, chiros, and I always say this as a well-being expert. I'm like, don't brag about who your chiropractor is, because if you're seeing them every week, I'm slightly concerned. You know what I mean? It's like, surely we get to a point where you don't have a chiropractor or a physiotherapist, right? So I always brag about that to my clients, because I say, guys, I never am at a physio, because if I feel a tweak come on, I get back to what I really know, which is stretch, get longer, get everything slowing down, get back under control. And I basically remedy myself, because obviously I've got that knowledge. But I think people are so much more open to it because musculoskeletal issues have went through the roof. So I think that you're in a great, like you say, the timing is great.
And I think on two factors there. One, about actually people looking at more chronic, in a positive word, ways of alleviating injuries in the future, is gaining actual kind of more credence. We've said it for years, exercise and prevention over cure and all of these, but actually people are beginning to see that more. And you can come into a Heba class and you can do your workout. You don't have to feel like you've got to keep up with the best there. And you don't have to feel like you need to kind of slow down because there's 3 newbies. You genuinely control yours, and yet you still get the class environment. You still get the social interaction, the wellness escapism that any fitness studio offers as well. And that's a plethora of benefits for the soul and the mind in itself. But you control your journey, and it's relevant to you. We've got a back strength series, we've got a pregnancy series, we do mobility, we do strength, we do burn, more calorific. So actually it takes, and you decide what's going to work for you. But timing wise, it's brilliant, because actually the landscape of the industry as a whole, Pelotons, Zwift, MyZones, all of these Whoop bands, the technology acceptance and the home workout kind of medium, that, I mean, that's proven now. I mean, you've only got to look at the size of those companies, let alone the 1,000 that I haven't mentioned there, of how good this market really is. And then to find a bit of it that's actually not been done is quite, it's so proven, it's so good at the moment that there's a lot of competitors.
I mean, how exciting is that for you though, Steve, that you've found this? I mean, obviously yours has been very fitness. And then obviously even then you're looking at your coaching business, which, I mean, I love how you do PT. I think the whole idea of the way you do it in terms of, I mean, you always used to teach personal trainers that they're actually training a person, but you're always on show and all that sort of stuff. But to find something that I think out of all the jobs you've had, knowing you, this one fits like a glove in terms of your ethos.
Isn't it?
Well, it's genuinely unique. And given what we were just talking about, that in a landscape where there's so many competitors, where it's a proven, how do you find something that's unique? How do you still be a first without having to be, well, will it work? Actually, no, it's been proven. Like I used the Peloton example, that works. And we steal functionality for our screens. We learn from Netflix's, Disney Plus's, Amazon Prime's. We learn from that scrollability in there. That's proven that works. Pilates has been going for 100 years. That's proven. But actually, digitalization of Pilates with machines, reformers, Cadillacs and things, is genuinely not done across the world. And there are lots of big Pilates names out there. There are lots of franchise companies who do very well, and a big hats off to them. But actually, this is genuinely pioneering and leading. So that's incredibly exciting, Ryan, to be at the forefront.
I can't remember, Steve, who it is, but the guy, Howard, that is very high up at Gym Kit.
Yeah.
He has, Howard has got a Pilates brand and told me that the studios were rammed.
Well, the other thing where you say timing at the moment as well in there, Glenda, is we're in an aging global population. Like as the population gets larger, actually the number of people in that gets larger. And here's a crux 22 for you on that. Pilates is in that slightly elder market compared to the typical for the fitness industry. So, which is great for us. However, because of our digital hybrid approach as such, we're actually lowering the age of people who are coming into Pilates as well. So actually it's kind of winning on two levels. Our typical age bracket is lower than the Pilates industry as a whole. But it's still actually talking to that audience who shy away from some of the traditional gym fitness worlds. And there are so many good ways of accessing exercise or fitness at the moment that just don't tick boxes for some people.
Well, the millennial Gen Zs are all about holistic wellness, aren't they? Much more than we ever were. You know, we were the traditional fitness guys.
100%.
Millennial Gen Zs are all about experience and holistic. And, you know, they're very much aware now of, let's be honest, we've never had a better footing for mental health than now. Because when we were young, you didn't talk about it. Where we've made so much progress that I think, like, it keeps going back to the same thing. There's a famous tech giant from Silicon Valley that always says the number one criteria for success is timing. You know, you look at people like Airbnb, Uber, it was all timing.
And
I think that that's what you're describing. But I want to go in a little bit of a deeper question, because I think our viewers are always interested about portfolios of product and how you get your secondary spend and how you really wrap around your whole thing. So can you just sort of give us a flavour, other than the actual class that you've described, which is super cool? Is there any emphasis on, I'm only asking the question, building more community through a smoothie bar? Are you doing merchandising? What is the whole offer like in terms of the customer journey?
So to go on the naysay to start with, the smoothie bars and that side of community, not really, to be honest.
I just wondered what you do in your studios, you know.
Yeah, and I go straight to the no there because it scuppers the ability to find certain properties and to affect the scale. So on that kind of, it's whilst we would value it and it would be great, it may be muddies the waters for what we're really trying to achieve. That said, it doesn't mean that we're not massively focused on community and building culture and effect there. So something that's actually coming soon is the evolution of our customer facing app. So that will go through a next phase as well, where we start to really bring in Heba journey and a community center in there. So that will actually start to connect, and there's a whole plethora of things in there to do with reward systems, incentivizations, celebrations, partnerships, community chats and things that will really start to go in there. And it will focus on like a millennial style approach there. And it will be open doors for, as we grow as a company as well, to be open API partners as well. So whether or not in the future there's your Stravas, your Apple Health, things like that. So the platform will be built to open conversations for all such parties, because it's a again, it's scale. And I don't mean that to sound just commercial first, but the bigger scale we can achieve, the more people we can get into Pilates, the more bodies we can help, and the more people that can move. And that's
happy business owners at the end of the day. The franchise has got a responsibility to help people build a model that actually works, and protects their future too, because it is a business as well.
Absolutely. And then on the smaller bits for secondary spend, we create our own loops, which are the handle styles. We sell those to other manufacturers as well. So if they want to use pieces of our kit as well, we also sell them to the guests. Again, the COVID world, we at the end of every session, we clean every touch point of the new former machine. Antibacterial wipes are provided with each area, and then the antibac sanitizers. The guides then go around and give a second one for every machine. So the studios are spotless and they're always completely kind of clean, sanitized for COVID. But what we also do is we sell those loops. So actually, if you're still not convinced, you can buy your own and you can bring them with you. Okay, so actually you don't have to share handles with anyone else. And so those come into the merchandise. We use toe socks, grippy toe socks, and we partner with toe socks. And we sell those to people to increase the proprioception and the response during the exercise. Our guys will wear them as well during their sessions. And then we have your typical water bottles and things there. But actually, that will be an area that will grow and grow as we increase our education center in that community hub as well. So as we get more and more content going out, that's not an actual class session, that's just supportive education, which is an area we want to really grow and focus on as well. Then that will all start to work together as one even more.
Steve, knowing you how I know you with your intense programming background and experience, have you guys got plans in this brand to do, when you mentioned things like pregnancy, anti-postnatal, thought that was fantastic that you've got some targeted programs, meaning the person can really come in and individualize as well, which is amazing. But I'm also joining a dot thinking, gosh, there's a big menopause opportunity here, because it's such a massive market. And the one thing about the menopause is you have to try, for some people, in terms of hormone development and changes, you have to be doing different types of exercise. And I think when you do all that strength work on ligaments, tendons, posture, I think that's a huge sub-targeted market.
100%. And actually, I mean, the simplest way to answer that is just to say the sky's the limit. Because actually, where we curate and design the content, we don't have to wait for someone else to kind of say it's a good idea. We listen to the feedback, we listen to the trends, we plan the future, and we can go in there. And menopause is on the list already for development to be a new content series.
Big market. Ryan, I don't know about you. I'm feeling tired already at the thought of this class.
Why do you think I've not gone down yet?
We've got to get our headbands on, mate, and get trying this.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, Ryan. You can also, and I make up a word, but there's menopause.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People don't realise that there is.
Yeah, and the hormonal approach is in there. And you can start to, this is where I use education quite a lot as well. We can educate without people even realising that they're being educated just by providing it. And there are so many areas we can
I try that every week with Ryan.
It's not working yet. But,
hey Ryan, you can see my excitement this week, because this is right up my street, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. We need to get you over to see the studios. I mean, I've only seen them from afar, and Steve walking around with a laptop showed me, but they are amazing. And so what's the growth look like for 2022 then, Steve? What's the I mean, obviously you've got the design stuff. You're always changing the design of the beds. You're always adding new stuff, new programs. What's 22? Is it?
So we've got 2 new studios in the pipeline coming soon.
And are they still company owned, Steve? Because obviously your growth at the minute is company owned, and then franchising.
So they're company owned. We want to make sure that we're proving a model. We want to make sure that we're also kind of learning from every bit of feedback that we get, both from internal teams and also customers.
And that's really important. It's really important when I look at franchise, because there's so many out there that will give you, if anyone's seen any of my LinkedIn, they best in class, and they've not even got a site open yet. And you're sort of going, you're asking someone to invest quite often their life savings into a business, and you want to know that when you're looking at those numbers, they're not just made up because of a bit of industry knowledge. They're made up because that's what that business does. We make this much money. This is how much you invest. This is your profit levels. Not we think it will do this. You want it to be actual numbers.
100%. And so we're still fine tuning at all times our promotional campaigns, our marketing approaches. We're very proud of what we're doing, but it doesn't mean that we're not still learning and trying to fine tune. So for each new studio, we're another 10 steps further along. We're wiser still, and that's great. So we're going to London soon. Next 2 studios will be London based. We're going cities because we don't just want to prove a model. We need to prove models for different types of locations.
Where are you based at the moment, Steve?
So we're outside of West London. So we're in South Buckinghamshire, Berkshire. So we're Windsor, Beaconsfield and Marlow are our 3. And what's really nice is they're quite a close hub. So actually they share and they work. So it's a great idea within franchise worlds for area development.
You get to use all of them as a member? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we share the credits across those. It's one of our key brand values is generous. And across the board for credits. So we want to make sure that we offer subscriptions, we offer credit packs, we offer multi-club usage so they can use all of the studios. It's also listening to the modern customer. There's expectations now as well. Everything's at the touch of a button on the app. So you can sign up on there, you can cancel on there.
You mentioned important things there, Steve, that people always debate in our industry. You know, you mentioned credits, you mentioned memberships. What is the basis of the membership model, and what's the price point of these type of places? Do you want to just give us a little lowdown on that?
Yeah. So the price point across ours is if you were to just come along for a single session, we actually base at £24 for a session. Which puts it into the Reformer Pilates kind of thing. However, because most people don't buy single sessions, they buy credit packs or they buy subscriptions. We actually offer unlimited passes. So unlimited passes on our subscriptions. So our subscription is £175 a month. That actually takes your sessions down to give or take the £10 mark, which for Reformer Pilates is incredible, to be honest. And the ability to do it whenever you want. That said, our audience aren't only Reformer Pilates background. So to some of them, they're not necessarily familiar with that price point a session. So we do smaller bundles. We do 10 packs. We do 30 packs in the credit world. And we do 1 and 2 times per week subscription plans.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, because I know you'll have done this. I know what you're like for detail. Obviously this never happens, but if that was full all of the time, even at I don't know, 60% utilization or 70, it's going to be a serious number because you're not limited to the class times. Have you actually, what does that look like when it's modeled out? It must be huge.
Yeah. And in a nicer sense, without going into too much detail to sharing certain bits of data in there, it is huge. And the potential for profit per month is really quite exciting there. And it is based around 1 session yield, but also 2, exactly as you allude to there, our scheduling system is really quite pivotal in this. Absolutely. Have a session 30 minutes, every 30 minutes of every day. So we offer, 170 sessions a week.
That's my point, it's big.
Yeah, you then times that by the 12 machines.
12 people that are in the room, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
Steve, what's the buy-in requirement for franchises? What's the minimum investment that you think a franchisee is going to be looking at? Because you do allude to the fact that by the sounds of it, you're planning the studios to feel also of a high quality. So the design and build must be more expensive.
Yeah, and
per square foot, I mean.
Per square foot actually is.
But smaller.
But at the same time, it's very simplistic.
Yeah.
So actually, it's quite a minimalist approach, Glenda. So we've got our new formers, we've got the cabinetry, we have a dry change area, and we typically have 1 to 2 showers. We don't then go beyond that. So whilst actually, depending on the per square foot size, it's not a small investment.
Yeah.
It's not going to be your 500,000 for any size.
Yeah,
So
I hear you.
it's probably, and it's going to have to be a probably, because property, location.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many factors.
200 mark type money.
I'd say probably under. I'd go between the 1 and the 2. Is where you're looking at.
That's a really interesting idea.
An entry to market for a franchise and a really exciting one is great.
And it's small box, right? I'm assuming that you're looking at places, what, 2,500 square foot tops?
Yeah, and you can even go smaller. You can even go smaller than that. The only thing you got to be careful of that we won't. One, height. Yeah, absolutely. That was something we had to change the floor and the ceiling height in one to achieve that. But the other thing is we won't bend on the COVID rules. Yeah. So actually, whilst on those sizes, because all it takes for the future coming in is not to go into a lockdown, but to go into, if you're not 2 meter space, you have to close every other machine. And do you know what? I don't mean to be so. I ain't doing that. Yeah. Actually, it's designed for that. So we want to be future proof in that way.
And to be fair, I feel like with the concept that it is, you would expect the space.
Yeah.
You know, I think that works in the concept that you're pushing. You know, people like to feel like, even although I know you're on the machine, you don't want another machine right on top of you.
Yeah. And I mean, the movements are large. Okay. You're doing full body actions. You've got cables in there. The machines themselves are about 2.7 meters long in full length when they fold out. So actually they're big things. So you've got lots of space for yourself, but at the same time, you still get that vibe and you get that energy of not being kind of on your own or kind of just in an area. So it's a real nice happy medium. And it's something that we can confidently hang our hat on that is not going to have to close unless everything closes. But what I don't want is these half regulation rules which actually would then scupper kind of the commercial returns. So we want to know that actually we can operate during as much of the industry time as possible. And that is a very valid consideration in the times we're in now. So
absolutely. I mean, a lot of gyms at the minute, the way they're designed, just if those restrictions came in again, it does hit them massively. You guys could just carry on as normal.
Yeah,
the restrictions, Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't only hit the numbers directly, it also hits them indirectly by the fact of it just massively affects the experience when you walk into a place and suddenly there's yellow tape everywhere, there's arrows stuck on the floor, and there's pieces of white paper just saying this machine's out to protect your safety. Like it just, and actually hats off to the operators who do that because they have to, and that's what they should. But it's not the same level of experience. It just looks like, oh, we've had to do this. So so we've gone in knowing this world exists, and we create.
It does give the brain that fear signal, doesn't it? And let's be honest, it's like danger, and you're meant to be in here to de-stress, come away from. Exactly, I think that's.
And let's be honest, you'd probably only add another one, maybe 2 beds in that. If you push them up closer, you wouldn't actually get that much more equipment in.
No, and you're bang on there, Ryan. When you actually start designing the plans and having a look and going through all kind of building regs and everything, it's a very little kind of gain of a machine in there, if possible, when actually it scuppers the experience. It doesn't fit our mantra, and there are potential that restrictions would come in place and happen. So
Steve, I think that because we've been, we know that you can take tough questions, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball one. So I know that Ryan will say I'm a massive boutique fan. I do feel like the boutiques have got a good future because I feel like post-COVID, we've just taught ourselves even more than before that we're creatures of human connection, right? Yep. So the boutique that really brings up this whole notion of community, I think I've got a great future. But what's your thoughts about collaboration more with other brands? So, for example, I'm sure that you would not recommend somebody to do 5 Pilates a week. I mean, maybe they can, but I think that if you were maybe balanced, you would want two or three. But
it's an interesting question, and many different ways to answer different bits of it. Because actually,
what I was wondering, the big question was though, when people want loads of variety these days, because we're terrible for a bit of boredom setting in, and everything has to always be super exciting. I do see in the future, I see the big boxes collaborating with boutiques, for example, where a big box might say, we have a partnership with you, so you can go and do a Pilates in this, and it's all, I can see that coming.
Well, I think it's already here, Glenda. It happens in other countries.
Right.
And I mean, to use another brand, Sport City, overseas, they, and even to use David Lloyd here in the UK, they've done it in-house. They've done it themselves. But Cyclone and Blaze and everything they've done is that they're learning from the boutiques because of that. I think more commonly, aside from the David Lloyd way of doing it, is people will partner, collaborate, and they'll bring the brands into one place. So you're, if I use the South here, London based, you've got Westfield shopping centres, you've got Intuit shopping centres, and we're in a world where the retail high street has suffered because of everything else digital. I think those spaces will start to become much more wellness hubs. And I think that collaboration will happen not only within a privatized brand, but I think it will actually start to go beyond that into authorities, local kind of sharings, councils, things there, where actually we also live in a world of aggregators. So actually, as they start to partner more, people will end up having, I don't know whether it's an app, whether it's part of a life insurance, part of whatever, where they get access to multiple places. And so it's a really tough question, because in the nicest sense from a business, you want to own as much as you can and you want to be there. But actually, partnership is friendship and friendship is growth. So
you look a lot of how these food ones do it. You see quite a lot of food ones now, especially on the forecourts and stuff like that, where you will have, just to name them, but you will have Greg's, a Burger King, and but they're all franchises under one roof. They're all, you know what I mean? It's obviously a different business, but what you've got in essence is one person owning those three franchises, but they're all different brands, and that's not uncommon in the food world. I
think you're right, Ryan. I think you'll see franchises out there that have got maybe a cycling brand that will then end up with a yoga brand, and because they own both, they can be maybe more innovative with their pricing structures and access.
Well, for instance, you'd have F45 with Heba. You know what I mean? In the same building, but and how that would work, I don't know. But you'd probably find that that's coming.
I think actually it will be a disruptor who actually becomes the partnered umbrella.
That's what I was thinking. But I think you could see some of the big franchises going for it. So, for example, you might see Anytime develop a small box concept alongside their big box, and therefore they're keeping it in-house. They can have separate, or you could have a more expensive overarching membership that gives you both.
Yeah, I think it's going to take bravery, because it's actually going to take a different understanding of...
It is, because it's consumer behaviour at the end of the day. I don't believe anymore that you're stealing one from the other and sabotaging. You've got to see it's a complementary thing, because I know so many people now who have two memberships.
Yeah, and
we'll have to get Dan. We'll have to get Dan Till on, Glenda, because he's got a trial. I don't know whether you know Dan, Steve.
No.
He's looking at a concept down in Portsmouth way, where they're getting clubs. He's trying to get 10 clubs together, but under one membership. Because apparently down there, quite a lot of people have got a membership at the Banner Times, but also a local independent club, because they're different.
I reckon that's more difficult. And Steve's so right. That's going to take major bravery. But I can see what the step towards that, the first step, I reckon, will be people keeping it owned by them, but understanding that rather than see their customer spend their second membership with another brand, we'll have that as well. So, for example, a cycling brand having a yoga brand, because they know that people want a bit of the hard, heavy cardio, and then they want a boutique mental health approach.
Yeah, I think it is, like I say, understanding something we've said for many years and putting it into a different context of conversation, which is the customer needs to break free of the walls of the facility. And we've said that by bringing in technology. But actually, you could understand that in a different way and say, actually, just because we're breaking free of these walls doesn't mean we can't have walls over there and walls over here, but actually they're just connected in a high street way. So actually they're different locations, but actually they're a spider web network of the same. And the consumer, the guest, the customer will benefit from that. And so therefore, actually, with that bravery, it would then return. It will just take some leaders in that. But from a Heba perspective, and that bravery of it being external brands within there, we're pre-prepped for this in the fact of we don't just want our franchise network, which is a valid part of our business we want to grow into. We've got our company owned that we're kind of proud of as well. We'll be releasing the home market to go direct to the guest, direct to the people's homes. But a big area for us is license as well. And so it's not necessarily a true franchise model as such, but it will be our studio within other facilities. And that could be...
Really? Oh, that's cool. So you would actually go as far as saying you don't have to be one of our branded studios. You could be Glenda's Pilates studio offering your licensed product.
Yes.
That's cool.
And so that goes, one, within our fitness wellness industry, but two, it starts to now shoulder side by side with other industries, the tourism, the wellness, hospitality, and actually everything in between. I mean, you're talking cruise ships, you're talking airport lounges, you're talking pop-up shops, you're talking that whole world starts to open up there.
For sure.
And it's just bringing it to the people. So absolutely, there'll be guidelines we'll have in the same way that we would apply to a franchise on ensuring our quality standards are achieved. But actually, it's a big area. And it's, again, a way of achieving scale and achieving the visions. Yeah.
Wow. I guess with all these things happening, though, it's trying to take one step at a time, isn't it? It really is. The opportunities there are massive.
The next 5 years, he's got it mapped out.
Yeah, that actually is. We've got a 5-year plan. We want at least 400 clubs in the 5 years.
Wow.
And is that UK based, Steve? Is that international? What's the
it's international. So we've already got earmarked to go Australia, European, Germany, Switzerland are on the list. We've got many others as well, but I name those as kind of closest.
Any reason why those territories?
Proven markets for Pilates, connections from founders, and actually kind of where our investor network has got an ability to land with strength as well, and where fitness thriving markets will entertain our model to keep the growth fast in the early days. It's a confidence vote, of who will embrace it.
Steve, just because of the sheer experience you've had over I'd say it's not
5 years. It's only 25.
Me and Ryan think it should be for what you've done, but we'll still give you that. It's been a lot of experience, right? So we're going to put you on the spot here. In the boutique space, what's your predictions of what other brands we're going to see emerge? What do you think is going to be the Pilates? You've obviously sold that. I think we're buying into that idea that there is a market. So what other things do you think you're going to see?
I think I don't like to say it on there, but I think we'll see a lot more competitors. I do think the boutiques that will come into the more wellness, the more holistic side on the boutiques will continue to rise. I do think that the functional will continue to go faster because in the simplest, cynical way, lower cost to make.
Absolutely. Business. You see a lot more CrossFit style and
they're cheap entry, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need big. The properties are easy as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I also think the other end of the spectrum is going to grow more as well. It's a lot more difficult because it takes specialism there, but going towards the younger age groups as well, and the developing communities, I think will actually increase. And I think you're seeing that in where we saw the trampoline parks. You then saw kind of the carry-on versions of Ninja Warrior that was televised. I mean, everyone
I'd
active.
love to get you on that, Ryan. That'll be me, you, and Steve on Ninja Warrior. But now that he told us, remind me.
You'll be the one that falls off on the first jump.
We'll have to sabotage him, Ryan. Trip him up.
I do think that's it doesn't necessarily need to be the same as those models, but what you're looking at there is fun first and game first. So I think there'll be a rise in those.
Are you a bit surprised that we haven't seen more in the older adult? Do you think that's coming as well because of the aging population? We haven't really seen it take off massively, have we yet?
No, and I think the other thing is when you think of franchise and or kind of mass kind of creation of a studio network, the easiest way to get the message out in the world we live in now is social media. By default, the ones who have got the highest like what they're seeing and scrolling, your money when you're putting your paid advertising is landing on a younger age group.
Absolutely.
Like whether you try to or not, it goes there. That's how the algorithms work. And so to specifically target an elderly niche through that medium, that in itself is a bit brave. And so actually you'd have to kind of mix your marketing approaches, go out there. So I think it's a tougher thing to do. However, I do come back to what I said earlier. The population is growing in that area. People live longer and they're healthier for longer.
And more disposable income, to be fair, because we know that if the average person finishes their mortgage payments and they are at a stage where, they might start earning less, but they're not spending anywhere near the same, there is a bit there for discretionary luxury spend, right?
100%. So I do think that will come, but I think it takes a lot more thought than just kind of saying putting an Otago chair-based boutique. It's a lot more involved than that.
Totally.
And to stay as uber cool in there, that generation deserve that just as much. It's not kind of, oh, let's go old traditional and put something soft and slow. That doesn't cut the mustard anymore. So whilst I think that's a big area.
Well, I think, and I know you're aware of the brand. I think you are as well, Ryan. But when I had Health House and bought Milo, and then you've got the emergence of eGym and stuff, even before I sold and came out of Health House, which I built that concept as a very high-end, premium, luxury, holistic wellness experience. But when obviously change of founder, change of CEO, things change. But the last thing I left them with is this could also work for the older age groups because it's very, very well-controlled exercise. It feels really safe.
There's a brand coming from Australia, isn't there? That they're supposed to be looking at sites at the minute. I can't remember the name of them, but there's a brand that's working well in Australia, which is that over 50s market, and it's literally geared for them. So I know a couple of people that are looking to help them bring it to the UK. So I think you're
going to see a lot.
Yeah, we'll watch that space.
Oh, sorry. Where you said Milan there, Glenda, as well within that. We put Milan in our Berlin club.
Yeah, I remember.
Hanover, we had it in Milan, or planned for Milan. But we had it in a few clubs, one in Brussels, and it was fantastic. A little boutique studio within the larger facility.
Yeah, it's definitely got a place.
But it did do what you said there as well. It did attract a slightly older demographic. They quite liked that they controlled that area. And you could put two things in there. We designed aesthetically the space to be welcoming to that group as well. The product itself did that. And eGym offers a very similar product to the Milan, but they also offer the ability to go more sports specific, do the more kind of raw. But again, all you're doing is you're specializing. You're taking things into one specific area. You hone your kind of your radar gun towards that and say, let's nail that bit. And that comes back to what we were on before of actually the partners and the more studio specific areas, the boutique. So whether it becomes now like, do you have a large property, a large area or not? I don't think there's a debate whether boutique works or not anymore. It works. And it's popularized. It's just how many boutiques do we put in our space and how many areas, and let's not put the same brain looking after all of them. Let's get an expert, a specialist for each area even if we own all of them or not. I think that's where the industry has learned and got better at, and will continue to get better at. Yeah,
for sure.
And just quickly, Steve, on the big one that's coming out at the minute, I'm a bit mixed on this in terms of the metaverse. What are your, I mean, you might not have had a huge amount of thought into it. I'm mixed in terms of where we go with this and how it's got longevity. But what are your thoughts?
I think it's a given, to be honest. I think it's going to happen. I think it's for many brains, and you've kindly said that I'm young in this a few times, which I appreciate. But I think my age category upwards, it is quite difficult for us to wrap our head around, in all honesty. So it can be quite confusing, quite complicated. But you've only got to have a look at, I don't know, Fortnite, wasn't it, on the gaming community? And it just goes boom, out there. And you've only got to look, I don't know, a Candy Crush or those kind of things. And people are trying to, what are you doing? Oh, I'm saving up to get this new chair to put in my garden. Oh, like, you've got a new house? No, my garden. Like, and so they genuine, and this is what the NFTs are. People want to upgrade their assets. Their assets might just be a digital thing, or they might want to swap that for something that can turn into real currency via blockchains and things. But it doesn't even need to do that. We're in a different generational world now. Things have different value. So I think it's inevitable that it will grow quite large. I mean,
we have the Oculus at home, and it's an amazing piece of kit, and you can immerse yourself into it. It's just how then that gets closer to real life, and how we can move that into exercise and so on. But it's it'd be interesting to see over the next few years how they do that.
I'll give you a good recommendation. On the Joe Rogan podcast the other week, they were talking about Tim Dillon tries to convince Joe Rogan to get into NFTs and jump in the metaverse, and it is an absolutely hilarious episode. But I was on the same page as Joe Rogan, because I'm like, this can't be real. And like, they were talking about Snoop Dogg, you know, the digital real estate that he's bought and stuff. And I'm just like, man, this is a new world. And then I don't know if you guys saw Gymshark held their first meeting in the metaverse, and I was like, oh, that's not for me. But you're absolutely right, it's inevitable. But just two observations, guys. I wanted to say, I was like, Ryan, what I think is so amazing, I knew we were going to get this with Steve, though, it's like positivity overdose, right? Because I know every time we speak to Steve, he's always about the opportunity, and never forgetting the risk and the challenge. But it's important what order you put that in terms of emphasis. So take my hat off to you, because I've always loved your mindset, and mindset is everything. And the second observation is, I felt a bit like we're on the Joe Rogan show here, because I reckon we could do 3 hours. 3 hours.
Absolutely. So we'll probably let Steve go in a minute. But
well,
the one thing
fastest hour I've ever had.
It's
like, I want to talk for longer.
It's crazy, isn't it? Steve's always like that. Even when we jump on the telephone, it can go for hours. Just quickly, Steve, just one final question for me, and then Glenda's probably got one. In terms of, because obviously you are a really positive person, and that's the way your outlook is. It always has been when I've worked with you. Who's your inspiration? Now, you can't say your family, because that's a given. But and I know your dad is an ex-footballer as well, so he's got that sporting background as well. But other than your family, who would you say is your inspiration that helps drive what you do?
Oh, I'm not prepared for this, so I don't know. Quite tough. I actually, do you know what? It's hard, because I don't necessarily have one, and actually from a young age, I was never a poster boy, like put someone up on walls or things. I'm quite OCD, and I like bits of people and things on there. I'm not saying I don't like but yeah, people have got their different strengths. My idol growing up was a guy called Roger Hammond. He was a cyclist who won the world championships in cyclocross, and he came from a close area to where I live. So it was a resonance of, he's a local boy, he's done that, I can do it. So I kind of like people I feel that I can really genuinely mimic and steal things from, not just someone who I might not come across or is in a different industry. So I try to steal things that are close on there. So he's a big inspiration for me. And then why I also struggle is there's lots of things that I like about people, but many of them are tainted, especially when you're in a cycling world. So lots of the people I like come from my cycling background, and let's not start that conversation, but it's not the cleanest sport. But you've only got to put your Dave Brailsfords in there, and his ability to segment things into marginal gains. I absolutely love that.
His concept of marginal gains is bonkers.
Yeah, if you can genuinely accept that making 0.1% of an improvement in an area, okay, and if you do that 10 times, okay,
all of a sudden
you've got 1%. And actually, I'm going to do this for 10 days. Okay, so actually, I'm going to keep this going, and I'm going to. When you then apply that flip side, you say, so I've only got to be that much better. And if I genuinely let myself zoom out and imagine the future, I'm going to be here. I was brought up with cycling in 4-year cycles. Everything was always about the Olympics. Everything was get there. So it was never, and it's the opposite. I follow football a lot, and everything is about the next game, the next game. My upbringing was different. No, mine was, do you know what? If I lose the next game, I don't care because I'm going there. Right? And this about my training, getting through it, and it's about that's where we're heading. I'm not naive to the fact of every day will be rosy on the way there. But actually, if there's a bump, I can take it in stride because I know that's expected and part of it. So whether I can actually embody that, who knows? But that's the attempt, and for me, it's quite cathartic in when you have bad days. Like on there.
No, it's that's really motivational to go again, right?
Yeah.
That's very inspirational.
That was a tough answer, but a couple of names in there.
Well, I think it's a nice way to look at it, and Dave Brailsford makes me laugh because the way they had the concept of that marginal gains was as much about the psychology against the opposition as well. It's like when they told the French that they had rounder wheels in one of the Olympics. We've got rounder wheels than anybody else in the world, and it turned out that the wheels were actually French. and it just so we can't have rounder wheels. The wheels are round. They are what they are. They're precise. But because of his idea of marginal gains, and they were doing this 1%, this 2%, you know what I mean, getting these small. Everybody thought they found this magic thing that their wheels are rounder, and they were making complaints to the UCI and all sorts about these rounder wheels, which turned out to be French wheels. They weren't even British, and it was just absolutely amazing because it got in everybody's head.
Yeah. And
some of the gains weren't actual gains, but the psychological gain they got from that was probably their 1% or whatever it was, because they'd messed with everyone's head. I love everything about that concept. It's just absolutely brilliant. If you can live your life by that and say that 0.1% or that 1% a day or per week or whatever it is that we're going to grow and develop, you can only go one way. You can't go backwards. If you're looking at those small gains, you cannot go backwards. You're always going to go forward over time. And what a great concept. And I know that's how you live, Steve, because I've worked with you for long enough. I know that's how you do things.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few, and actually to name drop a few others in there as well. I love James Clear's Atomic Habits and
what a book.
Like not just get a habit, but stack them. I love that concept.
I love habit stacking.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love the controllables. Okay, because if it's outside of your control, like don't let it eat at you. Okay, guilt is something that I think is a major naysayer to a lot of people. So actually controlling your controllables to how you view your own guilt on a day-to-day basis is quite nice. And also like Clive Woodward from rugby as well, the ability to actually know your limitations is the one I like there. He brought in a lot of people who did stuff that he just couldn't do, but it was actually
that's true.
And I like that as well. So there's loads of those that I love. That's why it's a really tough question.
I think we have to get Steve back on, Ryan, with specifically about managing, motivating and leading, because I know we could just get some serious wisdom up, and I know that you're really strong in that area too, Steve. And I guess I just want to finish by thanking you on behalf of Ryan and I, because I feel like the guys on your concept are so blessed to have you. And I'll be watching on with major interest, because I think that your journey is going to be super exciting. And I wish you the very best, but I feel like you don't need it that much, but we'll give you it anyway.
We'll take it as well, absolutely. And like you say, and we need to get you both down. We'll do a little session and get you in the studios fully experienced.
That would be so. That's something we will absolutely do, Ryan.
Do you know what would go nicely with this concept? That your revs and bags, or revs and gloves.
One of the concepts. Yeah. So that's
a conversation to have offline, probably.
Yeah, I'm glad you got the name wrong, Ryan.
Yeah, I can never remember it.
You'll need to edit that out.
Bikes and gloves. I don't want to give too much away.
Oh, you need to edit that.
But really appreciate your time, Steve. Obviously, we've gone massively over time because obviously we both love talking to you. So we will get you on again. I'll probably have to give you a date sooner rather than later, because I know what you like. You're an extremely busy man.
Yeah.
But yeah, really appreciate your time today. If anybody does want to go on and have a look at Heba Pilates, we'll put all the links at the back end of the back end, and obviously on any of our social media stuff when we send this out, because it's an amazing concept, and I think people will be really surprised at how well it stacks up as a business and how good it looks. I mean, even down to your branding. Your branding's amazing. It's funky. It's new. It's dynamic. It's going after the right market and demographics that you're looking at, which is perfect. So yeah, everybody should jump on there and have a look. So appreciate your time, and we'll definitely catch you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you.